So we have a little timeline here, and things will cross over. But before I start on this, I want to tell you another story. It's a story about a fella who was living someplace, and there was a huge flood that came along. So he got on the roof, and when he was on the roof, the water was coming up, and he thought, oh, if this doesn't slow down, I'm in big trouble here. So he cried out to God, and he said, God, bring me something. Bring me, I want you to rescue me. I want you to rescue me from this. Otherwise, I'm going to drown. So sure enough, this canoe comes along, and they say, hop on. And he says, oh, no, I cried out to God. He's going to rescue me. He's going to rescue me. And he really thought he was a man of faith. So he cries out again. Okay, the water's getting higher, and the water is getting higher. Rescue me, rescue me. So now a boat comes along, a motorboat, and they say, hop on board. And he said, oh no, God's going to rescue me. I have faith. I have faith. I have faith. So now the water's getting higher and higher, and it's all the way up to here, and he's screaming out again, God, rescue me, or I'm going to drown, I'm going to drown. And he brings along a helicopter. A helicopter comes along and drops down the ladder, and he goes, oh no, God's going to rescue me, God's going to rescue me. So anyway, the water comes over his head, and he drowns, and he gets on the other side, and he said, why didn't you rescue me? And he said, God said, well, I brought you a canoe, I brought you a boat, and then I brought you a helicopter. So here we go. Here's somebody that had everything given to them and let everything pass by and never got on and wasn't rescued. And I tell you that story because it's somewhat part of this story. So another thing I would like to do for all the boats that came by in my life, I would like to give some recognition to some of those boats that came by in my life. So the first one we're going to go to is my mother. So my aquatic career did not start with me. It started with my mom. And she's this little cutie patootie over here in this corner with the plaid shirt. When she was a teenager, and during the war, she went and joined a swim class at the YWCA in Winnipeg. And there were like 20 to 40 women in this class and one instructor. And she saw that instructor swim, and she thought, if I could only swim, if I could only swim like her. So she just got super determined. And she worked at it, and she worked at it, and she worked at it, and she worked at it. And she had this love and this passion for aquatics. And that woman also taught my mom how to teach swimming. And unfortunately, I don't know that woman's name. But my mom, her aquatics started with joining this paddling team. And she was like 18 years old there. So I think if she was like 13 or 14 when she started swimming, that's what happened. Then she joined this synchro club. And she also was a competitive swimmer. And she also taught swimming on Saturday mornings at Sugar Pool. So you Winnipeg people know what I'm talking about there. Another great thing about my mom is that she was one of the first female lifeguards hired for the city of Winnipeg back when. A little bit cheeky over there. And then as she got an office job, but she always kept teaching swimming on Saturday mornings at Sugar Pool. And she joined a swim club, and it was called the Women's Amateur Swim Club. And she's the one at the back with the dark hair. Apparently I'm in there in the front row someplace, and that was called the Women's Amateur Swim Club, and she was the president of that. But her love for swimming didn't just stop there in those areas in the pool. Whenever we went to the swimming pool, so we always went with her. On those Saturdays, we were always at the pool with her. We were at the pool many, many days. And she would take along our relatives, and she would take along our friends and our neighbors, and she taught them all to swim. And here's a neat picture. This is me and our neighbor. Look at our neat little Red Cross badges there. Wasn't that cute? And Sandra, our neighbor 2 doors down, she grew up to be a swim instructor for a little while as well. Anyway, so life went on. We spent a lot of time at the pools, but unfortunately tragedy happened to our family. In 1967, my father passed away. And so she had to make a decision. Was she going to go back to the office, or was she going to go to aquatics? And she chose to go to aquatics for the specific reason that she had 3 kids, and she thought that we could be involved in what she did. And we were already involved in aquatics. I was involved in competitive swimming. And I put this picture up here, not so much because of those ribbons and those things up there, but I'm a middle child. I'm the second kid. Are any of you out there? Do you have a picture of yourself? I just want to point that out. That's the one. So anyway, I think I jumped ahead a little bit. So can I just back out? Yeah. Okay. So let's just go back to that one. So so she went for aquatics, and at that year, 1967. Her and the city of Winnipeg brought the Red Cross program to the city of Winnipeg, and then that's when that program started there. And it made her allowed her to have flexibility, with home and kids and things like that. And then our life at home became a lot more of our life at the pool because we were often there with her. So the swimming pool was our second home, and later on, my mom had moved to Vancouver, and when she was there, she became the head instructor at the Delta Pool, Sun God at Delta. She continued to swim 1 hour a day, 1 mile a day, 4 days a week, and she did that till she was about 90, and then when she passed away, we buried her in her swimsuit. Yeah, that was my sister's idea. Anyway, so I'll just move on to this next one here. Okay. So, my life was now in aquatics, and I loved swimming. I absolutely loved it. I would have done that more than anything else in the world. So we were a competitive family. We swam competitively, synchro. I was chosen on a team to go off to the Dutch Antilles. Made paper for that, and I wasn't an Olympian. I was kind of fastish, but not super fast. And then I did water polo and I did synchro. So those things went on in my life. Okay, and because we were always at the pool, we had to obviously take instructor courses and all of those things that went on. And we all became, I'm talking about my brother and sister and I, we all became instructors and we all became lifeguards. But for me, that was supposed to be the end of it. I wanted to go off to school, but I had a lot of fun lifeguarding. This picture is, if you're from Winnipeg, that's at Kildonan Park Pool. And so I worked there at Kildonan Park Pool. And then when I moved to Vancouver to go to school, used teaching and lifeguarding as my way to get through school, and that's what it was supposed to be. So this is when I worked for the Corporation of the Township of Richmond. And I had lots of fun. I had so much fun in my role as a lifeguard when I was going to school. But then when I graduated, I went out and worked in that field that I had been going to school in. And you know what? I absolutely hated it. I hated it. So when the head guard from Richmond called me and he said, "You have a whole bunch of hours here, I could give you full-time hours," I literally, at that moment, quit my job and I went back to Richmond. And I was teaching, and I really liked teaching. I felt at home in that environment. And but I kept thinking, well, I really like it, but I was really mad and frustrated because it wasn't the field that I was thinking I wanted to go into. But I still kept doing it and kept doing it. And with that kind of a kind of thing going on. So when I moved to Kelowna, of course, well, I'm going to go try and find the job that I feel most comfortable with. And so I started teaching and lifeguarding for the city of Kelowna. And same thing, I still wanted to go out and find something else because this whole thing was just way too familiar to me. To me, I wanted a challenge. And this was just like home. you know, and so I still had a lot of fun, and I had a great love for it, but I started to really, like, it was getting really difficult to continue doing it, and as you can see, I had a lot of fun doing it. But then, interestingly enough, I gotta flip my page. In about 1993, here we go. 1993, so here's some old stuff. I thought that might bring back some memories for people. So, you know, we were also dealing with the Life Saving Society as well, but it was Red Cross that was really foremost in my mind. And that summer, there were two people that worked for Red Cross here in the Lower Mainland. One was Dave Tyler, and the other one was Ida Kadar. Ida didn't send me a picture herself, but Ida understood the situation that I was in. They worked here, but they were going to the interior of British Columbia. That's where I live. I live in the interior of British Columbia. So they were going there for their summer job for months, and they needed a place to live, and I had room. So they both came along. And like I say, Ida saw the struggle that I was having, and she said, well, you know what, Donna? Red Cross is such a great organization. They have all kinds of opportunity, and they do great things. So I hung out in the summer with them, going to presentations at school, and having a really good time at what I was doing. So I said, yeah, okay, Ida, all right. I think you got something here for me. So when she came back here, she recommended that I be an instructor trainer and that I do some volunteering. So the Red Cross took me, flew me here, put me up in a hotel, trained me for a whole weekend at this conference, and they did that year after year after year, and it was wonderful. I absolutely loved what I was doing with them. And then, of course, you get out in your own community, and you become more of a leader as an instructor trainer. And that happened when we had the colors. When we had the colors. And then, I don't think you're gonna like this next one. And then the next phase of my life was just before AquaQuest came in. They promoted me to be a master instructor trainer. And I was really excited about that because now I'm sort of getting out of Kelowna and I can go over the whole region because now I'm going to be training the instructor trainers on how to teach this one. I don't know if you remember it. Apply, analyze, wait a minute, experience, analyze, and apply. And you know what, nobody really got it? No. Okay, we all know that. So anyway, before the program came out, I was pretty involved and was able to bring some of the test things before this came out to the city of Kelowna, and we worked them through, and I collected all of the information and sent it back, and whatever they did with it, they did with it. But I was really excited about that, and then, you know, it kind of put the city of Kelowna a little bit more on the map there with Red Cross. And true to what Ida said, Red Cross likes to hire their own volunteers. So in 1998, getting a little older here now, the British Columbia Southern Interior hired me to be the first aid and water safety representative for them. And guess what? This was a boat that came by, and I was getting on. And it was a fairly big boat, and I really, really liked it. I loved this job. It was absolutely the best job. I worked there for about 8 years, and I spent a lot of time traveling and having really the best time of my life at a job. There's no job that I would ever say that I liked better than this one. And I was known in the community. And here's Kyla, who took my place after to be an IT and MIT, and then the representative. And we had a little awards moment here for this one. But one thing about Red Cross that I would like to say, I pretty much knew it really well. From when I was a child, I went through the 4 programs of the colors and the AquaQuest, in the colors. I learned how to swim, and then taught all the other 4 programs, was an IT and MIT. I was a volunteer, I was an employee, and I became a provider. Okay? So, another shift came in. When I was at the right young age of 37, moving on, I married Walter. And Walter had a mind that was entrepreneurial. And I never really had that. I kind of had like a, maybe that's something I would like to do. But he's really that way. So I started to think that way and thought, maybe I'd like to take it the next step. So then that brings me to this point. At one of those Red Cross IT workshops, there was a breakout session, and in it were two women that had their own private swim schools. And I saw the name on there, and I recognized one of them. Sharon Crowley. Don't you love that one? Don't you love that one? And she put on a workshop there, her and Claudine? Yes. And Claudia. But it was Sharon that I was interested in hearing from because I had already read one of the manuals. She had a little manual about water babies, and I had read that one through and through and had met her at workshops. And she was a real inspiration for me. So here was another boat that was coming by, but I wasn't getting on yet. I was still happy at Red Cross. I was still happy doing what I was doing. But when my husband and I went to go shopping for a home, for our forever home, that's when I said to him, you know what, honey, let's buy a house with a pool. Let's buy a house with a pool. And so in that summer of 1996, we opened up Donna's Summer Swim School. And remember that AquaQuest I told you about? Well, it was about that time. And this guy is Bob Stetten. He was the Red Cross representative in the BC Southern Interior then. Do you know Bob?
No, but that was a great picture.
This is the before and the after. And he's still in aquatics in a kind of a way. So he was the rep. And he kind of was in between those two stages there. And he said, you know what, Donna, this AquaQuest thing, he said, it's got people's heads spinning and nobody wants to do the instructor schools. And he knew that I wanted to open up these lessons in my backyard. So he said, I got all these moms calling me, I got these facilities calling me, and we need instructors out there. I said, so why don't you do it in your backyard pool? So I did. That was a fantastic summer. We did 3 instructor schools. They would come on Friday night and they would leave on Sunday morning. And they camped in my basement and in our backyard. And I was in heaven. I absolutely loved it. My backyard looked like this all summer long. And because we did those instructor schools, when you do that practice teaching, we had free swimming lessons. So then, of course, everybody, the word spread very, very quickly that, hey, this was a place to take swimming lessons in that nice little community. And here's some lessons going on here. And you see that little one in the, she's sitting right there. There we go. Okay, and so, because I'll just say, we moved. And I kind of thought, oh, okay, well, I had that entrepreneurial itch, and it's all over, and I'm done. I have this great Red Cross job. I don't really need to do this because I was doing both and going crazy. And so I took all of my stuff, and I gave it away. And that's the end of that, because I don't need it anymore. But one of the clients that came, she said to me, you know, why don't you carry these on in the winter? And I said, well, you know, no, no, I'm done. I've had it. I'm tired. And I really love what I'm doing at Red Cross. And she says, well, you know, we have this hotel pool. We just renovated it. It's got an indoor pool. And so after several nudges, I thought, oh, okay, I'll go see this pool. So as I'm going to this pool, I'm thinking, I hope it's rotten. I hope I can't teach in it. I am done. And I walked into that pool, and I looked out there, and it was like hotel pool heaven. I couldn't believe it. Like, this was no little boat going by. Like, this was a yacht. It had absolutely everything in it. So when I left, I was so mad. I was so mad. I was shaking my fist at God. I'm like, no, I'm happy where I am. Why are you bringing me this thing? And anyway, got the best of me. I phoned up some old clients, started with, in the year 2000, started with 1.5 hours a week teaching at the best restaurant in Kelowna. But it was a hobby, right? It was a hobby, but some hobby. For some reason, it kept growing and growing and growing, and now I'm going crazy because I have a little girl, and I have my Red Cross job, and I've got this thing going on, and it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger, so I have to start hiring people. And when these people came to teach for me, the one thing I noticed is that I didn't like the way they taught. I like the way I taught, because when I would sit in that lifeguard chair back in the day, it was excruciatingly painful for me. It was boring, so when people would swim, I would watch what they would do. And I'd go, okay, well, there's something wrong with that. There's something wrong with that. How would I correct that? How would I fix that? Da-da-da-da. And it would spend hours analyzing strokes on what I was going to do to fix these things. So I made up and wrote out my own little manual on how everybody was going to teach. So when somebody came to work for me, they had to teach my way. There came a point where I did leave Red Cross, and here's this one. And then thought, I think I can do a little bit better than a hobby. So I started doing it full time. And I had to hire this gal. So, do I have time for this story? Okay. So the name, WETS. So what is that? I'm just going to tell you how it came about. Okay? We were the no-name brand for a long, long time. Because I worked for Red Cross, and I wasn't supposed to be an authorized provider, so I kind of had to fly under the radar. And so I was really okay with that, but when it was getting really tough, that's when I had to sort of leave Red Cross and move over to here. And we didn't have a name, and so I kept thinking AquaQuest, and I kept thinking Aqua Ventures, and I kept thinking Aqua, these are all taken and whatever. So one day my husband said to me, he went like this, "What do you do?" And I said, "We teach swimming." And that's what it was. All those years of not having a name, and we said it over and over and over again, over and over. We teach swimming, we teach swimming. So the next day, being a Red Cross, you have got to get an acronym here. So I went WTS. WTS, that means nothing. I need a vowel. There it is. WETS. And it just came like that. I thank God for that. Anyway, as we moved forward with WETS, I thought, I really don't know what I'm doing. So I hired Miranda. And Miranda just kind of set me on course with, the things that you need to really, take this business and move it forward. And you'll see her again later on. And another really neat thing that happened is that Kelowna had the University of British Columbia opened up a campus in Kelowna. So it brought along all kinds of these guys. All these instructors. I had a pool of them, and 2 of them up there are in this room. Well, I mean, it makes 3. And so things were just boogieing and boogieing, and then we made a little club, the WETS Club, and did some, besides the Learn to Swim, a little bit of competitive stuff, and there's Susie again. And we did some synchro. And then we kind of noticed that some of the kids that we had been teaching were getting older. So here's Mackenzie. We have this thing, it's called the Cradle to Career Program. So Mackenzie started with us teaching, with learning, and then became teaching. So here's Miranda again. She was one of my clients, right? So here she is with Ryder as a baby, and now Ryder is teaching with us. And then a couple of gals in here. And then I had to hire Danielle. There we go. And from there, she was our marketing gal. We got her right out of college. She had great ideas, and she was ready to go. So we were thrilled to have her come on board. But the whole time this is going on, I'm thinking, okay, I'm using this Red Cross program. I'm using this Red Cross program. And there's lots of things about that Red Cross program that you kind of have questions with sometimes. Like, you know, like what is weight transfer? Anybody here know what weight transfer is? See, everybody checks it off on the card. I know what it is, but it's in the wrong spot. All right? Okay, why do we teach diving? And I think, like, I had all kinds of questions in there. So I wanted to make up my own program. So we started moving forward with that. But it's taken a really long time. And actually, for a long time, I didn't do anything. So we used sort of what I was doing and kind of mixed it in with Red Cross for a very, very long time. And then COVID hit. And the thing about the business that I run, it's kind of a boutique one. There's not massive amounts of people. There's maybe 250 to 400, depending on the week or the season. And so I have always been involved in the pool of teaching. Not really putting my name on it, but sort of go, okay, what's left over? I'll teach that, and we'll do the substituting. So I'm still in there teaching from my manual over and over and over again. Everybody's doing it over and over and over again. And then when COVID hit, that was like, well, everybody was devastated. But the only way to keep it going was we had to teach, and it was just Savannah and I. And we were teaching massive amounts of hours a week. And it just kept getting ingrained more and more and more in my head. Like, why am I doing this Red Cross stuff? I should be doing my own. And see, we got the mask on. Oh, sorry. We got the mask on here. And I drove Savannah into the ground. We had to sort of say, we can't keep teaching all of this. We just had to reduce so that we could make it to the next day. But then I decided, hey, after that, I've got to get my own program. So we moved forward. Miranda came back and we formed our executive team. And with this team, we had to, put in all the systems in place and blah, 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 that you do in a business. But in order for me to get this little program out of my head, I'm like the old Baba making the pierogies or the nona with pasta. Like you go into the room and you say, well, what do you do? How do you do? Well, what do you mean? And then it comes out and you go, well, what did you do? Can I write it? What do you write it down? So you know what I'm talking about, right? So I had this team, and it was their job to go in here and take all this stuff out. And it was like crazy questions, like, what do you do that? Why do you do that? How are we doing that? So Donna would say to me, Donna, nobody knows what you're talking about, go back, blah, blah, blah. And I didn't bring a team of yes people on board. It was always driving me, do this, do that, how do you do that, how do you do that? But that's okay, because I say, you do this, you do that too. Yeah, but anyway, there was Savannah, I think, really more than anybody else in there, getting it out of my head, getting it on paper. And Danielle, video. Donna, I don't like the lighting. Do it again. All right, these kids are freezing. And anyway, in the end, we have produced this program, but we're still sort of in the infancy stages of it. But I would like to let you know we are looking for partners to come on board. But Danielle did say to me one day, she said, you do things different, and I'll tell you how you do things different. And so that's how she labeled that one. Swim lessons done differently. Okay, and here's a couple of the things we do different. We don't have levels, we only have progressions. We don't have badges or stickers or cards. Everything's online, but we have these little tokens and wristbands. It's easy for the instructors to learn, and they don't have to make up massive lesson plans or anything like that. Once they got the ball rolling, it's rolling, and you get it in your head and you just put it out. We anticipate errors, and we correct them instantly. So, like I said, we are looking for partners. Take a picture of that one. There we go. There, move my head. We're very excited about it. We're really pleased with how it's being brought out to the community. I have to tell you a story about something that happened last summer, okay? And that's probably why I'm losing track here. So this, my friends have this pool. I used to lifeguard with him, and he built this pool specifically for teaching. It's called the Linden House. And I think this was a week that I was substituting 1 week. But as everybody knows, during COVID, we all had big long wait lists and no instructors. So I'm out there screaming at God now, going, we need instructors. Can you bring me a barge full of them? Bring me a barge, bring me a boat, bring me some. Everybody needs instructors, not just me. So he said, yeah, I can do that. But Donna, he said, I noticed that I'm bringing you all these children, and you are treating them like work and money. And I'm just going to tell you this little story. So I said to Savannah, Savannah, what's the situation this summer? And she said, looks like we don't have an instructor for 5 weeks at that house. And I said, oh my goodness. So my name was on that list for 5 weeks in a row. And I'll tell you something, I went to my 50th high school reunion, so I'm no spring chicken, and 5 weeks of me teaching every morning was really tough, but I thought, okay, I better take this seriously. I lost something along the way. And so I'm just going to show you that little guy again. I have to go back. So here he is. Isn't he a beauty? There he goes. All right. So the first day he shows up, and I'm on the schedule for 5 weeks, and I'm thinking, okay, I got to be a 20-year-old. I got to get up in the morning, put on my bicycle helmet, and I go to school, and I got there and I taught. And and I had to have a little bit of an attitude change, and he shows up. And he shows up, and he's just like barely 3, just turned 3. The shorts are down here, the pudgy legs, and look at and he big crocodile tears. Oh, he was just so sweet, and he broke my heart. I just loved him so much. Well, he didn't break my heart; he melted my heart, I would say. And after 3 days, well, he cried for the first 10 minutes, and then he came in, and he learned, and that was him jumping in and swimming to me after 3 days. And that is what just kind of solidified it all for me. That was like, all this growing and making money and doing all that, when this is what we're after. And we wrote it down. All of us wrote it down on all of our things here today. So shame on me, okay? Shame on me. But I'll tell you, after that, it was so much easier to put that helmet on and ride to that pool. And I wasn't really a 20-year-old because every afternoon I went home and napped. I had to take off all my other hats, and we just moved forward. And I did have fun for the rest of the summer. There, me and Ryder. And then what happened that fall, right after that, we started putting together an instructor school, and we put our own first WETS instructor school together. And then, and there was not a big class, and then we put together another one, and so then that side of things started growing and growing. And I'm not on the schedule anymore. Thank you. Yeah, and we've made quite an impact in Kelowna. We won this gold award last year from Kelowna Now, and when we leave here tomorrow, we're going back for our next award tomorrow night. So there we go. So we've got this great program, and flowing along fantastic with it right now. And so, here you are. Next step. What happened? What happened? Here's Kareem. Now, how did he get in here, right? There was another boat that came by, because we all know when COVID hit, we were all going, what are we doing? What are we doing? But he called me, and he said, we're trying to put together, a swim school Canadian thing going on. And it didn't really have this name then, but I said, I don't care, I'm on. Thank you for that boat. That came on. And I have been on that boat ever since, and it has been very valuable to us. And on the first conference, Danielle and I went, And we had a blast. We had so much fun from the moment we got there. It was tough to get there because of the flights, and I walked in so wiped out. But we had so much fun. But because I was so tired, I remember saying to Tiernan, "Oh, I'm just going to be like low-key." I said that to the wrong person.
Yeah, I was like, that, you don't say that unless you don't mean it.
He said, "Well, no, you got to network. You have to network. There's no point in coming here unless you network." And I'm like, and I thought, I just want to sit there. And so we did. We did network. And at this table and that table, but by the last day, I was so exhausted, I thought, I'm going to sit at this table where this guy's doing all the talking, and then I can just, turn and we'll see that. And he did all the talking, this guy, and I was so happy, And then all of a sudden the conversation came to me, and this guy's name was Craig, and he was from Ontario, but he said he worked in British Columbia, or he lived in British Columbia for 20 years. So I find out he worked for the city of Richmond. Oh, so now we know people, chitty chatty. Oh, that's really good. And then he said something about Son of God Cool. Well, my mom was the head instructor there, for 5 years. So I said to him, well, maybe you know my mom. She's the head instructor. And I'm trying to describe her. And so I just said, oh, you know what? She looks like me. How's that? And so he turned away. Sorry, he didn't turn away. He stared at me, and he stared at me, and he said, Eleanor? And I'm like, bingo! So, kudos to you for making me network. And it was the best part. It was like the highlight of that trip. And when I got home, I told my sister, we were all excited. And I did say to Craig, oh, well, she's like 95 and a half, can't see in one eye, blind in the other, can't hear in one, deaf in the other, and a little bit of dementia. She knows who I am, Craig, but she wouldn't know who you are. Anyway, 3.5 months later, she passed away. And at the end of her funeral, that story I just told you was the story I told just at the end of her funeral, because she was so involved in aquatics. Anyway, and that kind of wraps up my story, but there are a couple of things I would just like to wrap up with here. In closing, while you're here today, you make sure you network, because you never know who you are going to meet and what ships are going to come by in your life while you're here today. Number 2, don't lose track of why we do this. Don't lose track of why we do this. You think about those little ringlets and swimming and those people and the fun that they have in the water and the drownings that we are preventing. And number 3, WETS is looking for partners. And you can take a picture of that. Hey, and hop on board. All right. And thank you